No me not deny. Jamhuri na ni nice. It's all about love, one tribe. Ini the best si wote. Na itubambe si wote. Kupiga kura musikose round nyingine tusitete. Hakikishe kila kitu pete. Hamsini kwetu ni 50. Homes in your best and ukienda east west. You go on tracks is a beat latest. Wakenya twende Wakenya twende na kama inakubamba simama katika. It's all about love, one tribe daima.
Wakenya twende Wakenya twende na kama inakubamba simama katika. It's all about love, one tribe daima.
Wakenya twende Wakenya twende na kama inakubamba simama katika. It's all about love, one tribe daima.
Infrastructure is marvelous. kubariki nchi yetu.
Kenya nchi yetu yasonga mbele, nende inamuo mwingi na watanio. Tangu tupate uhuru, bado jamhuri yetu yasimama imara na tukingilika.
Kenya ni nchi yenye usalama. Kenya ni nchi ya wazalendo. Uadilifu na usawa ni nguzo. Neba boro Kenya.
Tuwapongeze kwa makofi, tuwapongeze tena kwa makofi. Na kwa onyesho hilo Mheshimiwa Rais, ndipo tunafika tamati ya burudani ya siku ya leo. Ningependa kuwapongeza wasanii wote na walioshiriki kutuandalia burudani la siku ya leo. Nikiwapongeza pia wenzangu wote tulioshirikiana nao hapa uwanjani na pia wale waliotuletea matangazo kwa redio na televisheni. Na sasa kwa heshima kuu na unyenyekevu Mheshimiwa Rais, naomba nimwalike Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais, Mheshimiwa Dr. William Ruto aweze kukualika uweze kuhutubia taifa. Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais.
Mheshimiwa Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu wa majeshi yote ya Kenya, Your Excellency Margaret Kenyatta, our First Lady, Your Excellency Mama Ngina Kenyatta, and the first family members, the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate, Madam Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, waheshimiwa mawaziri, makatibu, party leaders present here, the Honorable Raila Odinga and the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, hamjambo. Your Excellency, on behalf of many Kenyans who are seeing these magnificent grounds for the first time today, we want to congratulate you for your stewardship in transforming these grounds to a truly Uhuru Gardens. I think it was something else before. Your Excellency, as we celebrate this 58th Jamhuri Day, we build on the successes and the achievements of the past, while learning useful lessons of the things we didn't do right, but focused on the future where our better days lie. Your Excellency, united as a country, this celebration in these new grounds gives us as a nation the opportunity to reflect about our past, and individually and collectively, with the determination, build and secure institutions of governance, social, economic, and political institutions that will secure our current and our present, and also guarantee our future as a democratic and free society. Your Excellency, as we focus into that future, our unity, ensuring that the institutions that we build will guarantee equal opportunity for all our citizens, and that patronage and who you know will not determine how you succeed in our country. We are determined, Your Excellency, as we focus into the future, to ensure that all the institutions are built to create an equal society where every citizen can proudly sing our national anthem and say, na tujenge taifa letu, ndio wajibu wetu. Kenya ipate heshima. Tuungane pamoja kazini. Kila siku tuwe na shukrani, tukijua kazi ni kazi. Tunakushukuru Mheshimiwa Rais for leading the nation again in this Jamhuri celebration, and it is now my very humble duty to request His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya to make the national address. Your Excellency, sir.
Asante sana. Please, let's be seated. All protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, all Kenyans, let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a very happy Jamhuri Day. Today, indeed, I am delighted and privileged to host the 57th Jamhuri Day celebrations here at Uhuru Gardens, the People's Gardens. This is the exact place where the Union Jack of the British colonizer was lowered and our national flag hoisted on midnight of the 12th of December 1963. And as we hoisted our national flag here at this People's Garden in Nairobi, one of our heroes by the name of Kisoi Munyao raised the same flag at midnight of Independence Day at the peak of Mount Kenya, this being the highest point in our land where we wanted to declare to one and all that Kenya was finally independent. The joy of December 12th is that we celebrate two critical milestones of our independence journey. And I say so because the transfer of power from the British to our founding fathers took place in 3 steps over a period of 18 months. The first step was achieved after the May 27th election of 1963. This election ushered in our self-rule on June the 1st of 1963, and with this step, the first Prime Minister of Kenya, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, became the head of government. But the Queen of England still remained the head of state, and this meant that we were free, but not yet totally free. Indeed, 6 months later, the second milestone was achieved when we gained independence on December 12, 1963. On this day, here, we hoisted our national flag and played our national anthem for the first time. And as we did this, we were reminded that our national flag is not just a piece of cloth decorated with ink or some sentimental display of colors without history. Our flag is a symbol of the national wounds and scars that we bear from the Liberation War. It is a picture of the battles that were fought, those that were won, and indeed those that we lost. And because the ultimate act of every great warrior is to lay down his weapon, the shield and spears on our national flag symbolize victory. But even with independence, a national flag and a national anthem, the Queen continued to serve as Kenya's head of state. It took us 1 full year to get to the third and final milestone of our liberation. And this happened on December 12th, 1964, when the Queen vacated her position as head of state, and with this act, Kenya transitioned into a full republic or Jamhuri, making the total liberation of our country. On this memorable day in 1964, we returned to this garden to launch the Republic of Kenya and inaugurate its first president. And on the same day, the Governor General became the last expatriate occupant of Government House here in Nairobi. To commemorate this change of guard, the first president planted a mugumo tree at the exact spot where our flag had been hoisted at midnight of December 12, 1963. That 57-year-old tree still stands tall and proud to my right as a symbol of our struggle that dates back over 100 years. This December 12th is therefore a joyous day for Kenya because we mark the 58th anniversary of our independence and the 57th celebration of our becoming a republic. And as we mark this historic day, some will tell you that history is meaningless, unnecessary, useless, and irrelevant to the concerns of the present. I beg to differ. History provides invaluable lessons to be learned and gives context to the present. By looking back, we are better able to look forward. Learning from the past means that we can build on its good, avoid its mistakes, and most importantly, it is a constant reminder of the ugly, so that even as we forgive, we must never forget. Fellow Kenyans, why did our founding fathers choose Uhuru Gardens as the place to celebrate Independence Day in 1963 and the Republic status in 1964? Why did they want generations to memorize about our history, the untold atrocities visited upon our people, and all the evil associated with colonial rule? This ground on which we stand today were at one time also known as the Langata concentration camp. During the Liberation War, this concentration camp was the most notorious clearinghouse for our liberation fighters. In fact, it is estimated that up to 10,000 of our gallant and most feared liberators were confined in this camp at some point or another, and most of them did not survive the wrath of the colonizers. Indeed, Langata camp has been described in some books of history as resembling the Nazi camps in Germany, both in its psychological warfare and its methods of brutality. In fact, using quack scientists, the colonizers argued that devotion to the cause of Mau Mau was a mental illness, and the only way to deal with it was by creating mass detention camps where shock therapy and torture could be administered as a cure. And that was part of the logic they used to create the Langata concentration camp where we are seated today. So by creating this garden as a place of remembrance, our founding fathers wanted generations to recall the darkness of our colonial past, but not to be stuck in the pessimism that dark memories can breed. They wanted us to turn darkness into positive energy, the way they did it in concentration camps. Instead of breaking down in the camps and breaking down because of colonial brutality, they only became stronger. But there are other reasons also why our founding fathers brought us to this place of national remembrance. Each time we gather here, they wanted us to face our national fears and demons with courage. More so because no condition can be considered permanent. They wanted us never to question in the dark decisions we made in the light. Mainly because the long walk to freedom was a walk of faith. Most of our liberators had no idea whether or when freedom would come. In fact, many confessed in their memoirs that many times they had doubt that their cause would ever see the light of day. And although their walk to freedom was long and hard, the only thing that sustained them was the burning conviction of the righteousness of their cause. They were troubled on every side, but never distressed. They were perplexed, but they never fell into despair. So, fellow Kenyans, when we congregate at this place of remembrance, we are all called on to renew the soul of our nation. We are called to appreciate the pain felt and sacrifices made by those who went before us. The fallen soldiers and heroes buried in unmarked graves in prisons and camps all over our country. And that is why the project under construction behind us was initiated. Apart from being a place of remembrance and healing, this place will be an arena where the past, the present, and the future will converge. When Kenyans walk through the Heroes Boulevard, their spirits will be edified by the sacrifice our liberators made. And at the end of the boulevard, there will be the tomb of the unknown warrior, a warrior whose name we do not know, although he died in battle for our country, and a warrior whose mother let him go, and both mother and son sacrificed so that we can be free. Once completed, this place of history will rekindle memories of our armed struggle and also the good, the bad, as well as the ugly of our history. At the Hall of Legends, it will bring alive our legendary ancestors, including Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, Mekatalili wa Menza, Koitalel Arap Samoei, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Nabongo Mumia, Laibon Lenana, Dedan Kimathi, among many others. At the Tunnel of Martyrs, we will have a solemn memorial to each and every Kenyan who has lost their lives in the many watershed moments. This will range from the First to the Second World War, all the way to the victims of the post-election violence of 2008. In the rope gallery of this museum, a named rope will be dedicated to every one of the 1,090 heroic souls that were hanged during the colonial era. And at the Moments of Darkness gallery, we shall display the history of our country, of our lowest moments, the moments that we regret but are part of our history. But not all the galleries will be sad news. The Hall of Innovation in this museum will celebrate the brilliant, game-changing ideas produced by Kenyans. This hall will speak to the future and how our past has guided it. And the hall, again behind me, marked by a pointed spear, will characterize our latest exploits, our moments of great hope and national pride, and our bold path into the future. So, fellow Kenyans, this place will be a book of history, an illumination of the future, weaved in hope, written in pictures, sculptures, and historic artifacts. And although the place of remembrance will also be a place of pain, it will also be an altar for historical forgiveness. As Kenyans walk through the galleries of the heroes and legends, they must forgive those who trespassed against them. However, they must also heed the call from our founding father when he said, "We will forgive them, but we will never forget." We must forgive our transgressors, but we must never forget their name. Fellow Kenyans, finally our founding fathers brought us to this garden of remembrance to teach us that nation building is not a sprint, it is a relay. No single person or group of persons can make this undertaking alone. Liberation was achieved because it was a product of teamwork, and it must be recorded that the founding fathers were not a team because they worked together. They were a team because they reinforced each other and had deep respect and trust for one another. They taught us that nation building is like building a house. This endeavor is a product of teamwork and not individualism. They built a firm foundation for a prosperous Kenya. Others amongst them built the walls and others roofed the house. Everyone had a role to play, and no role was greater or lesser than the other. The same is true today as it was then. We are building a house called Kenya, and there is no place for one-manism in this project. It is the collective work of every able-bodied Kenyan. And yes, we will disagree at times, but in our disagreements, we must always remain respectful. In fact, respectful disagreements are what lead to reconciliation. More so, because when we disagree, it is a sign that we are making progress. The making of a nation and the building of a house are a living process. They cannot be static and must be dynamic. Errors are made sometimes, and renovations must correct them after the house is completed. Indeed, in the recent past, in December of 1991, it was established that the one-party system was a design error in our nationhood, and the advancement of the Republic had outlived its usefulness, and we made renovations and changed the system. In 2007, we ran into another defect in our nation-building project, and we discovered that the politics of exclusion, in which the winner takes all, was not good for our country, and we were bold enough to change our constitution and expand the executive in order to accommodate the excluded. And indeed, when the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and I shook hands on March 8th of 2018, it was because we saw a crack on the wall of our nation. We had run 2 elections that costed the country in excess of 1 trillion shillings. These losses made us see that we were staring at a nation divided right in the middle. But because we had disagreed respectfully, we knew that this was a mark of progress. And though it was difficult, the necessity, the reason, and recognition that we as Kenyans need each other, nation before self, as our forefathers had taught us, to come together, reinforced our resolve. Therefore, again, I will continue to say that we need to come together and mend the crack on the wall of our nation. And this, I believe, is what necessitated the First Amendment to our Constitution. And although it encountered some legal obstacles, I say again today that BBI is just a dream deferred. One day, someday, it will happen. Because just as the country cannot survive ethnic majoritarianism and exclusion, just in the same breath, it cannot survive unfair and skewed representation. This is a design defect, and we must fix it. Fellow Kenyans, the Garden of the People, therefore, is not just a place of remembrance. It was gifted to us as a place where generations shall tell stories of where we have come from, where we are, and indeed where we are going. It is an arena of truth, narrated before God, verified by history, and reinforced by the acts of our founding fathers and each and every one of us as we move through life. And it is a convergence point between our past, our present, it must also, therefore, be our guide for the future. Allow me, as I conclude, to give a thought towards that future. If the Asian tigers were at the same level of development as Kenya in 1963, and I remind Kenyans that our country, our nation, actually lent South Korea money to implement its development plan in 1963. The question we therefore must ask ourselves is what happened? Why were we unable to develop as fast as those did? This future did not happen because we failed to plan for it. The future evaded us because we failed to imagine it. And I say so because imagination is more powerful than knowledge. For the past to have an impact on our future, we must constantly imagine and reimagine it. Indeed, as we envision the future, we are also reminded that in 8 years' time, our economic blueprint, that is the Kenya Vision 2030, will have run its course. By then, Kenya will be home to a projected 63 million citizens. And as Kenya turns 100 in the year 2063, we will be home to 100 million citizens. For us to secure the elusive shared prosperity and intergenerational equity, we must be bold in our imagination of Kenya at 100. But our imagination cannot follow the popular path. It must follow the bold path. And indeed, Vision 2063 must be a bold imagination of what Kenya will be at 100 years. The solemn duty of framing how this vision looks is the task of our generation. Indeed, as our children will walk through the Boulevard of Heroes in this park and play in the Pavilion of Reflection, what account of ourselves will we have left in this unedited place of history? It must be written in this unedited book of history that we chose the bold path over the popular path. Indeed, as it is said, the lion is not the strongest animal in the savannah, neither is it the biggest, neither is it the shrewdest, but it is the boldest, and that is why it is the king. Indeed, it is for this very same reason that it is said that an army of sheep led by a lion can defeat an army of lions led by a sheep. The future of Kenya, inspired by the past and present, must be about a brave imagination. That is why today I congratulate the young men and women of the 19th Battalion of the Kenya Rifles, to whom I have presented the presidential and regimental colors today. We must celebrate our defense forces because when they go to war in the defense of our borders, they know too well that they will either return hoisting our national flag or return wrapped in our national flag. This takes boldness and dedication. So, fellow Kenyans, as I now end my address, I want to remind of a promise I made on the 20th of October 2021, where I directed the Ministry of Energy to fast-track the implementation of the recommendations of the Presidential Task Force on Power Purchase Agreements. I am pleased to note that the pathway to reduce the cost of electricity by over 30% is on course. In honor of this pledge to the nation and response to the concerns of the high cost of electricity raised both by individual customers and enterprises, I am pleased to announce to the nation that the reduction of the cost of electricity will be implemented in 2 tranches of 15% each, with the first 15% achieved through initial actions focusing on system and commercial losses, and this will be reflected in people's bills in December of this year. A further 15% reduction will happen in the first quarter of 2022. In realizing the second tranche of reduction in power bills, I note that the Ministry of Energy and other government departments have initiated engagement with independent power producers aimed at renegotiation of power purchase agreements so as to give our country better value for money for our consumers. I urge the power producers to demonstrate goodwill as we seek to make our energy sector a greater catalyst of our national development. So as we move to the new year 2022, I would wish to leave you with the words of our founding president as he wished our new republic a Merry Christmas 57 years ago. And in it he urged our good men and women to be of service to their fellow countrymen. And indeed his New Year message was, and I quote, "Let everyone who is educated teach others to read and write. Let every man who is healthy help a man who is sick. Let every man who has work find some prospect for a man that is poor and not employed. Let service be our inspiration for the future," end of quote. And with this message, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2022. Asanteni sana wenzangu. Leo nimesema sitaongea mengi. Juzi nilipata nafasi kule bunge ya kutaja mambo mbalimbali ambayo serikali ambayo naiongoza tumeweza kuyatenda. Siku ya leo ni siku ya kukumbuka mashujaa, wale ambao walipigania uhuru wa taifa hili letu la Kenya, wale ambao wamepigania demokrasi ya taifa hili letu la Kenya. Na hapa ambapo tulipo ni pahali ambapo patasaidia sisi kama Wakenya kujikumbusha mema na mazuri ambayo tumeweza kuyatenda, yale mabaya ambayo tumepitia na ambayo tuwatakikana tusome ndio tusirudie, na pia yale maovu ambayo yametendeka ambaye lazima kama nchi tujikinge na tuhakikishe ya kwamba hatuwezi tena kurudi kwa umwagikaji wa damu. Ningependa nichukue fursa hii kushukuru wote ambao tumefanya kazi pamoja na wao katika huu mradi wa kujenga hii Uhuru Gardens. Nianze kwanza kwa kushukuru jeshi letu kupitia wewe CDF na wenzako. Jeshi limejikaza kabisa pamoja na wengine, na tujue ya kwamba hata ule mtu ambaye amechora na wale ambao wamekuwa ma-engineers wote ni wananchi na watoto wa jamhuri hii yetu ya Kenya, na tunawashukuru na tunasema ya kwamba mbele ya mwezi wa 4 mwaka ujao tutarudi hapa kufungua museum ambayo iko hapa na kufungua hii uwanja kikamili kwa wale wote wananchi wote, watoto wa shule bila malipo waweze kutembea, wajionee historia yao, wajionee pahali ambapo wametoka, wajifunze kutoka babu zetu na waweze kujua pahali ambapo wangependa kupeleka nchi hii. Ningefanya makosa kama singemshukuru moja kati yetu hapa ambaye tumekuwa tukiongea na yeye kutoka miezi karibu 14 wakati nilianza hii project ya Uhuru Gardens, ambaye tumetembea na yeye hapa sana na amenipatia mawaidha. Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, nasema asante sana kwa yale ambayo umetusaidia kutenda. Naonekana hawa wazee wanataka uwaongeleshe, kuja uwasalimie jameni.
Your Excellency, Rais wa Jamhuri wa Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, mama wa taifa ya Jamhuri ya Kenya, Mama Ngina Kenyatta, Mama Margaret Kenyatta, naibu wa rais, viongozi wote wamefika hapa siku ya leo. Harambee! 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 Nimesema hayo kwa sababu yale ndio yalifanyika hapa miaka 58 iliyopita. Your Excellency, I have only two things that I want to tell Kenyans today. First way is true what you have said here about these grounds. But Kenyans must also know that this ground was not chosen for no reason. One, there was a motion in Parliament, and I see the speakers here, then called Legico, about the site. Then there were three sites. One was along what was called Princess Elizabeth Highway, now Uhuru Highway, and that was Uhuru Park. The other one was called Mitchell Park, which is today called Jamhuri Park or ASK grounds. This one here was called open ground next to Nairobi Dam. This one was chosen because it was a concentration camp where, as the president has said, freedom fighters were tortured, like they were tortured in Hitler's Auschwitz and Buchenwald. Here, next to the Western Hotel, which is part of this ground, in Langata Primary School, there are torture chambers which have been preserved by the Museum of Kenya for people to know where we are coming from. Your Excellency, what you've done here is great. I'd asked you when you went to Namibia to go and look at what they have done. When you came back, you told me, we'll do better. We'll actually come up with the best in Africa. How we are going to remember our past. There are those who say, forget about the past. We want to look at the future. The past is very important because if you don't look at the past, you are likely to repeat the same mistakes made in the past. And here, Your Excellency, you say that you want history unedited here. People will come to know who Wayaki Wahinga was, who Harithuku was, and so many of those our heroes here. Many of Kenyan patriots have worked here. Historians, geologists, anthropologists, political scientists, architects, engineers have worked here, and people are going to be surprised at what you've done here. It shows your vision for this nation, our country. So we, therefore, Your Excellency, I want to congratulate you in front of fellow Kenyans here for the work that you've done that will only be recognized many years after you've left office. So we congratulate you, and this land had been grabbed, but those land grabbers who do not see any open space and stop grabbing them. But you managed to retrieve it back for the benefit of our people, and it's going to remain truly Uhuru Gardens, where we also are going to bury our heroes and remember them for posterity. I thank you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Haya, kwa hayo machache na mengi, mimi nawatakia Wakenya kila laheri. Mungu awabariki. Mungu awabariki taifa letu la Kenya. Tuwe na Krismasi njema. Tuwe na mwaka mpya wa amani. Majaliwa ya Mwenyezi Mungu, tutaonana tena. Asanteni sana, kwaherini. Thank you very much.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais. Kwa heshima Mheshimiwa Rais, naomba tuketi kwa kifupi. Kwa heshima Mheshimiwa Rais, naomba uniruhusu niwaalike wachache utakao watunza medali mbalimbali. Head of Public Service, kindly, if we could continue. Thank you, sir.
Your Excellency, sir, I wish to present to Your Excellency for conferment of awards and honors to the following persons for the distinguished and outstanding service they have rendered to this nation.
You are not audible, so maybe you can recognize our performance, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy President. Let me repeat again. Your Excellency, sir, I wish to present to Your Excellency for conferment of awards and honors to the following persons for the distinguished and outstanding service they have rendered to this nation. 1, the Order of the Burning Spear, under the category of the second class, Order of the Burning Spear, that is EBS. We have Engineer Kishan Singh Gehlot.
Engineer Gehlot is the founding chairman of Intersect Construction Limited and KJ Group. He is also the director Medanta Africare facility in East Africa. Your Excellency, he donated a large asphalt batching plant ama kiwanda cha kutengeneza rami with capacity of 128 metric tons per hour to Nairobi Metropolitan Service. This plant has greatly assisted in the tarmacking of roads in Nairobi to improve transport infrastructure in the city of Nairobi. He is awarded Elder of the Order of the Burning Spear, EBS, for his dedicated service to the public. Congratulations, Engineer Onyesha Wananchi, asante sana.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, under the same category, we have Dr. Willis Akware of the Ministry of Health.
Dr. Akwale is the chairman National COVID-19 Vaccines Deployment Task Force in the Ministry of Health. Under his leadership, the country has administered over 8 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. He has also coordinated the receipt of over 10 million assorted vaccines from the COVAX program and other donors. This has strengthened our country's efforts against COVID-19. He is awarded Elder of the Order of the Burning Spear, EBS, for dedicated service. Congratulations, Daktari. Asante, congratulations again.
Your Excellency, the next category is the Order of the Grand Warrior of Kenya, OGW. We have Sergeant Salim Mohammed Salim Buna.
Sergeant Salim Mohammed was enlisted in the Kenya Defense Forces in 1992. On 3rd of September 2020, during the capture of Kismayu, they encountered an improvised explosive device attack and heavy gunfire from the enemy. One of the vehicles lost control, while in another vehicle, he proceeded to the scene to save his colleagues. Despite being shot at 5 times in his right leg, he selflessly fought to save his colleagues. As a result of the injuries, he had to undergo knee replacement surgery. His heroic act saved the lives of his colleagues and managed to rescue the service vehicle from enemy capture. He is awarded Order of the Grand Warrior of Kenya, OGW. Congratulations, Sergeant. Asante sana.
The next one, sir, is Ms. Faith Shemgetish Kipiegon.
Faith Kipyegon is a middle distance runner specializing in 1500 meters. She won a gold medal during the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and she has won gold medals at the 2011 World Under 18 Championships and the 2012 World Under 20 Championships. The national anthem of Kenya was played as the world listened due to her heroic victory. Your Excellency, she is awarded the Order of the Grand Warrior of Kenya for her exemplary performance. Congratulations, you can show the public. Asante sana waonyeshe. Asante, tumshukuru.
The last under that category, Your Excellency, is Ms. Perez Shepchirchir.
Perez Shepchirchir is a professional long-distance runner. She won a gold medal during the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games in women's marathon, the toughest race in the Olympics. She has also won gold medal at the IAAF World Half Marathon Championships in 2016 and again gold at the World Championships 2020. She is also a former half marathon world record champion. She is awarded the Order of the Grand Warrior of Kenya, OGW, for exemplary performance. Asante tuonyeshe wananchi, asante sana, and congratulations again.
The last category, sir, is the Silver Star of Kenya, that is SS. We have Captain Ari Chitalo Ramadhan.
Corporal Shitiaro is specialized in counter-terrorism. On 18th May 2021 in Bonny Forest, he was one of the gunners who was instrumental in repulsing the enemy fire. While still executing his role as a gunner, he often conducted medical assistance to two of his seriously injured colleagues. During the intense gunfight, he was separated from his team and survived in Bonny Forest without food or water for a period of 6 days with 2 gunshot wounds in his legs. He is awarded the Silver Star of Kenya for bravery and self-sacrifice. Asante Kopro, tuonyeshe wananchi. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. That comes to the end.
Niombe sasa sote tusimame kwa wimbo wa taifa.
Yetu ilete baraka kwetu, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Wananchi watukufu, tafadhali tunaomba msubiri hadi mgeni wetu rasmi aweze kuondoka uwanjani, na nitampa mwenzangu Inspekta Sara Mauti aweze kutuletea itifaki hiyo jinsi tutakavyoondoka hapa uwanjani.
Asanti. Itifaki ya kuondoka itakuwa ifuatavyo: magari rasmi ya Mheshimiwa Rais na Mheshimiwa Mama wa Taifa yataongoza. Watasindikizwa na gari la mkuu wa majeshi ya ulinzi Jenerali Robert Kibochi, magari rasmi ya Mheshimiwa Rais na Mheshimiwa Mama wa Taifa akisindikizwa na gari la mkuu wa majeshi ya ulinzi Jenerali Robert Kibochi yatatangulia katika uratibu huo, na kisha baadaye tutakuwa wengine. Tafadhali tubaki kama tumetulia ili tumruhusu mgeni wetu wa heshima aweze kuondoka mwanzo, ndio tuweze kufuatia. Tafadhali tutulie sote popote tulipo.
With Jamhuri Day celebrations led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, quite a significant day that has been today in terms of what the president has said. And like I told you, like I rightly predicted, you know, the political ramification or the political significance of what will happen here is really quite major. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Kamche Menza. An interesting one. But, you know, listening to the president speaking, sijui umepata yapi?
Mimi hapo kwanza Kioria kwanza amenifurahisha sana, amenipunga sana, manake ametuelezea historia nzuri sana ya hili eneo. Kama unaelewa kwamba hata wengi hawako wanafahamu kuhusu historia ya hili eneo, lakini ametuanzia mwanzo, ametupatia safari kuanzia mwanzo, akatuelezea hili eneo linamaanisha nini na ni yapi amefanyika hapa na lina umuhimu gani kwa taifa ya Kenya. Akatuleta polepole, Waswahili wenyewe wanasema mdogo mdogo, akatuleta tuna historia polepole kuhusu mabeberu waliokuwa hapa. Nakumbuka kuna historia moja hapa ameitaja kuhusu, akisema kwamba hapa mahali palikuwa ni mahali ambapo wale waliokuwa wanapigania uhuru walikuwa wanashikwa na kuja kutatizwa hapa ama kupitishwa katika hali ngumu, maisha magumu hapa. Kwa hivyo ni historia ambayo imeshika na imewaeleza wengi mengi, imewafahamisha wa Kenya masuala mengi. Kwa hivyo kuna hiyo historia ambayo ameileta kuanzia mwanzo mpaka mwisho, lakini alipofika pale mwisho akasema historia ni muhimu sana. Historia ni muhimu sana kwa yale yaliyopita na yale ambayo tunaenda kuyakuta kule mbele. Katika ile hali ya kuwa tunapanga, historia inatusaidia katika kupanga mambo ya kule mbele. Kisha ndio maana akaja akagusia pale JJ, kama umekuwa makini sana, akagusia mambo ya BBI. Mambo ambayo alikuwa amesema kwamba lazima siasa zitapamba moto hapa.
Lazima siasa zingepamba moto. But in a bit, let me speak to the CS in charge of sports very quickly. You know, listening to the president speak today, what feeling has that created in your mind and in your heart?
First of all, my ministry is in charge of this work, Minister of Culture, Heritage and Sports, and the president's speech and the mood therein has resuscitated the hope that our generation need to tap in as we venture into the future. And I think every young person who is watching from any part of this country should draw and read the speech. The speech is here, written in both Swahili and English. And I think whoever can get it, from county commissioners, DCCs, this is a message of hope that gives us the springboard of where we need to go as a country, especially the generations that intend to take the leadership in the coming elections and beyond. Secondly, also, it has mentioned why we must make right decisions on politics, because the president has said the past, the present and the future must converge here. But what is our future? What has been our past and what is our present? Our present is intertwined with the decision we are going to make for the presidential election in the coming election. And Kenyans know better what not to elect. They may not know what to elect, but they know what not to elect, from the president to the MCA. We must get leaders who understand the vibration that has been elicited by President's speech today and the leaders who have attended today.
Reimagining the future.
We must reimagine the future. He actually has said in his speech that imagination is much more powerful than knowledge. That's a very good statement. If you can imagine your future and reimagine it, you can live it better than those who have knowledge about the future. Let us reimagine our country. Let us reimagine our families. Let us reimagine our work, where we work. You reimagine the work of your work. KBC has reimagined itself. Yes. That's why it's rolling down today. And we are very happy. Absolutely. May every Kenyan reimagine their future and their life. And I want to wish them a happy, Merry Christmas and a New Year that is full of grace of God.
All right. Asante sana. Happy Jamhuri Day to you and Happy New Year to you too. Obviously, looking at the culmination of this event, we'll be trying to grab a few more interviews here and there. But President Uhuru Kenyatta talking about reimagining the future, the First Amendment, the constitutional moment. It appears it's something he's not going to let go just yet. He's still going, to keep, pressing on the same ideas of a constitutional moment and reimagining that very constitutional moment. Let me grab the MP for Limuru, that is Peter Mwadhi, very quickly. I have to do this quick grabs. Habari yako, how are you doing?
Mzuri sana.
Very quickly, the president's speech.
Yes.
How did it make you feel?
It just made me feel like I am in Kenya, that we need to be one people. We need to bring all people together. And the best thing is the rallying call. Let us be one people. Let us build a nation, and not a group of ethnic groups.
All right. Reimagining the future, because the president talks about reimagining the future in his speech. What does that, if you were to understand it in your own language, what do you think the president was saying?
No, he was saying that we know where we have come from. We have a history of good times and bad times, and that should make us learn what we do in future. So our future must be informed by what history we went through. It's very, very important, so that as we go forward, we know we never repeat the same mistakes.
All right. There appear to be, a bit of political significance when the president finishes his speech and then invites Raila Odinga. Is that an endorsement?
Not an endorsement. I would only know that he was trying to emphasize the message of unity. Because Azimio la Umoja is about unity of Kenyans, devoid of who is who, which tribe it is. But we have one tribe called Kenyans, and we walk the journey together. That is what I think was the best.
All right. The chairperson, Security Committee in the National Assembly, and now the majority leader in the Senate. We were with him in the morning, and now again joining us, to analyze the speech. I don't know whether it met your expectations, because we were speaking earlier, about your expectations, and I don't know whether the speech today has met your expectations.
Indeed, met my expectations. The president spoke more of the history, where we came from, and a lot of the achievements which he has made in his government, and at the same time appealing to Kenyans that never before shall we go to conflict in our democracy. The handshake matter came up again. As you can see that there is goodwill among leaders. The leaders, party leaders came. Those who are here, at least we saw them